Everyone knew Rhys Jiang didn't love me. That included me. He kept me by his side as a living, breathing punishment for the death of the woman he truly adored. In his drunken stupors, he would kiss me while whispering my sister's name. When the sun rose, he would shove me from the room with cold disgust. But Rhys, I would think, a silent scream in my heart, the one you were in love with for 3 years was me. Not my sister. Later, he would spend 3 days and 3 nights combing the frigid sea for me, his voice raw as he screamed my name into the wind. Luna, please come back. Please just come home with me. Rhys is drunk. The call came, as it always did, from one of Rhys's friends. It was my cue. When I arrived at the private room, the air thick with cigar smoke and expensive whiskey, they were talking about me. So, Rhys, you're really not going to marry her? Rhys swirled the crimson liquid in his wine glass, a contemptuous laugh escaping him. Her? She could never be worthy. The men in the room, vultures of the corporate world, knew how to read their leader. They eagerly chimed in. A venomous woman like Luna? How could she ever deserve a man like Rhys? If it wasn't for her, Aurora would still be alive. Rhys wouldn't be 30 and still unmarried. She stole someone else's life. She should have been the one to die. If Rhys wasn't so kind-hearted, she wouldn't even be breathing right now. Because Rhys didn't love me, his friends despised me. In their eyes, I was a monster, my sins unforgivable. Even Rhys himself, in moments when his grief was sharpest, looked at me as if he wanted to devour me whole. I took a deep breath, smoothed my hair, and pushed open the door, feigning a recent arrival. Get out, he roared, hurling his glass in my direction. It shattered against the wall behind me, the sound a sharp crack in the heavy air. My heart leaped, but I forced my face into a mask of calm. Rhys, you're drunk. Let's go home. He shoved my hand away. The force of it sent me stumbling back onto the plush sofa. He pointed a wavering finger at me, his words slurring but sharp as glass. Luna. Why aren't you dead yet? It should have been you. You. It was as if a dam had broken inside me. Tears streamed down my face, hot and unstoppable. I wiped them away, my voice a gentle whisper. Rhys, be good. Let's go home. He filled another glass and held it out to me, his voice a low, manic rasp. Drink this, and I'll go with you. I'm allergic to alcohol. This wasn't a request, it was a punishment. I took the glass and drained the amber liquid in one go. Fire seared my throat and stomach. My heart hammered against my ribs, and a creeping, maddening itch began to spread across my entire body. Rhys leaned in, his breath hot against my neck. You're so pathetic, he murmured. The words, though soft, pierced me like a blade, twisting deep in my heart until the pain was so immense I couldn't move. I don't remember how we got home. Like so many other drunken nights, Rhys took me with a savage, desperate energy, ignoring the red welts that bloomed across my skin from the allergy. The morning sun, slanting through the window, was a blinding knife. It illuminated the room but couldn't touch the cold darkness in my heart, or in his. I vividly remembered him biting at my skin last night, murmuring that one, tender name, Rory. It was my sister's nickname. He had never once spoken my name with such aching affection. He had never once shown me such gentleness. He said I was the one who should have died. But what had I done wrong? My sister was dead, so everyone remembered her. I couldn't forget her. Even the man I had loved for 3 years couldn't forget her. I never imagined he would hold me and call out another woman's name, especially not my sister's. But Aurora was innocent, and I had no right to blame Rhys. It felt as though it had all been my fault from the very beginning. I was solely responsible for this tragedy. My clothes were torn and scattered on the floor. I gathered the shredded fabric to cover myself and tried to slip out of the room before he woke. But a hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Rhys's face was inches from mine. For a split second, as his eyes scanned my exposed skin, I thought I saw a flicker of pity. But it was gone as quickly as it came. His kisses rained down on me, rough and demanding. Tears streamed down my face again. I pushed him away, my voice raw with anguish. Rhys, look at me. I'm Luna. Not my sister. Confusion clouded his features for a moment, then the cruelty returned. I thought maybe you'd forgotten. Did you take your pill? His voice was a low sneer. What, are you so desperate to carry my child? Do you think you're worthy? My feet felt as if they were filled with lead. I shuffled to the nightstand, opened the drawer, and poured the entire bottle of birth control pills into my hand. I swallowed them all in one go. He lunged forward, grabbing my hand and staring at the empty bottle. You're insane, he hissed. He snatched his phone and dialed our housekeeper. Mr. Lin, take her to the hospital. Get her stomach pumped. He hung up and grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. Is this how you get my attention? Do you have any idea how pathetic this makes you look? I looked into his dark, furious eyes, and the tears I'd been holding back finally fell. He always twisted everything. I hadn't seen how many pills were left. I thought there were only 1 or 2. I wasn't so debased as to use such a cheap trick to get his attention. I wasn't my sister. I knew his love was something I could never hope to have. After that night, Rhys didn't come home for 2 weeks. When he finally did, he deliberately avoided me. I cooked his favorite dishes, just like I always had, and waited for him to come downstairs. Rhys, eat something before you go. He looked at me, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. He walked to the table, and for a foolish moment, my heart leaped with hope. But then he picked up the bowl of millet porridge and tipped it upside down. The warm liquid splashed onto my feet. The bowl crashed to the floor, and a shard of porcelain sliced into my calf. Luna, what right do you have to enjoy this kind of peaceful life? If it weren't for you, Aurora would still be alive. Do you even have a heart? I clutched my chest. Didn't I have a heart? If I didn't, why did it ache so much? Aurora died because of you. How can you live with yourself? I wish I had never met you. He wished he had never met me. He had forgotten the summer nights when he carried me on his back across the Wutong Bridge. Forgotten telling me I was a gift from heaven. Forgotten his promise that he would never let me be sad. Or had he? No, he hadn't forgotten. The guilt he felt over my sister's death had consumed him, leaving no room for the love he once had for me. I often wondered. If he hadn't mistaken me for my sister that first day, if I hadn't fallen in love with him, would our story have ended differently? If I hadn't taken my sister's place, would she have ever fallen for that other man? Would she have walked into that cold, unforgiving sea? I wiped a tear from my eye. Rhys, I whispered, please, just let me go. I promise, I will disappear from your life forever. I'll never bother you again. A storm erupted in his eyes. In your dreams, he roared, his voice like a gale-force wind. I want you to live a life worse than death. I want you to spend the rest of your days atoning for what you did to Aurora. The sound of the car engine faded, and he was gone. I slid to the floor, surrounded by the wreckage of the morning. A profound sadness washed over me, so deep I couldn't even cry. Mrs. Wang, our housekeeper, gently patted my back until I could breathe again. Miss Luna, you must take care of yourself, she said softly. If you were to die, the young master would have no one left to hate. He would go mad. It was a laughable, tragic truth. Not a single person in this world genuinely cared for me. They despised me, yet they needed me to live. My existence gave Rhys a reason to keep breathing. My own will was irrelevant. Rhys was rarely home, which gave me a strange, hollow freedom. But idle hands, idle mind. I couldn't escape the prison he had built around me. That evening, a text message arrived. Miss Luna, I'm pregnant. 7 simple words, and my world came crashing down. To punish me, Rhys never used protection. I had lost count of how many morning after pills I'd taken. Even if this wasn't his, I knew I could never have a child. I typed back, my fingers trembling, congratulations, Mrs. Jiang. There was no reply. A few days later, after nearly 2 months away, Rhys stormed back into the apartment. I was on the sofa, knitting, when the door flew open. He strode over, grabbed my hands, and stared into my eyes. You're happy about it? His question made no sense. I stared back at him, bewildered. He threw my hands down and pinned me to the sofa. "Since when," he hissed, "are you so generous with my name? Mrs. Jiang? Did I approve that?" So that was it. He was angry that I had called his lover Mrs. Jiang. Fine. I had made a mistake. But the girl was carrying his child. Was the title really worth this fury, this cross-examination? I lowered my gaze. She said she was pregnant. I assumed you would eventually marry her. She'll be the first to give you a child. His face darkened. And you're not sad? You don't hate me at all? I didn't know what to say. I thought my silence would appease him. I was wrong. "Luna," he ground out, "you are a cruel, heartless woman." The chandelier swayed above us as his mouth crashed down on mine. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. He bit my lip, his tongue plundering, as if he wanted to absorb me into himself. He only released me when I was gasping for air. He wasn't drunk, but he was seeing my sister again. I let him take me, my body rigid and unresponsive. He must have felt it, because he stopped, dressed, and left as quickly as he had come. If not for the lingering sting on my lips, I might have thought it was all a dream. Rhys didn't love me, but he knew I loved him. So he devised a new form of torture. "Miss Luna," the butler said, his tone gentle, "the young master requires you to start at Jiang Corporation today. As his personal secretary." He saw my hesitation. "He wants you there in 30 minutes. Please, don't make this difficult for me." On the drive over, Mr. Lin spoke to me, a rare kindness in his voice. "Don't blame the young master, Miss Luna. He's just grieving. He hasn't been able to move on." "I know, Mr. Lin. Thank you." When I walked into Rhys's office, a young woman was looking up at him with wide, innocent eyes. He pulled her into his lap, his hand resting on her waist, a smile playing on his lips. "You need to be careful now that you're pregnant. No more foolishness." She wrapped her arms around his neck. "Are you still angry with me?" He tapped her nose. "Silly girl. How could I be? I couldn't adore you more." They finally seemed to notice me. The girl, Meng, gave a start. "Oh. Luna." But her hands remained firmly clasped around Rhys's neck. Rhys didn't even look at me. "Get Miss Meng a glass of water. We can't let the baby get thirsty." His words were 1,000 tiny needles piercing my heart. I knew there was nothing left between us but mutual torment, but seeing him with another woman, so tender and caring, was an agony I couldn't describe. As I handed her the water, she accidentally knocked it from my hand. The glass shattered, and hot water splashed onto my feet. She cowered on the sofa. "Oh, it's hot. I'm so sorry, Luna. I didn't know you were so unhappy about getting me water. I thought you would be happy for us, now that I'm carrying his child." Rhys leaped from his chair, fussing over her, checking for burns. She burrowed into his arms, looking at me with the feigned terror of a cornered fawn. "You can't do one simple thing right?" Rhys snarled at me. "What good are you? Go stand outside." I picked up the pieces of the broken glass and left the office. I could hear Meng's soft sobs, and Rhys's low, comforting murmurs. Half an hour later, she emerged. Her makeup smudged, a faint lipstick stain on her cheek. It didn't take a genius to figure out what had been happening. A fresh wave of pain washed over me. "Secretary Yun," Rhys called. "Clean this up." The office was a disaster. Books were swept from his desk. The image of them, entwined on that very surface, flashed in my mind. A wave of nausea hit me, and I retched. He grabbed my wrist. "Does this disgust you?" I pulled away and fled to the bathroom. I heaved until there was nothing left, then slid to the floor, leaning against the cool tiles. I stayed there for what felt like an eternity, until I heard his voice, pounding on the door. "Luna! Get out here. If you're going to die, don't do it at my company. It's bad luck." He never used to be so cruel. The slightest hint of sadness from me would once have sent him into a spiral of self-reproach. That man was gone forever. When I came out, he grabbed my arm and dragged me through the building, not caring if I could keep up. As we passed the grand staircase, he flung my hand away. My legs, still numb, gave out from under me. I tumbled down the stairs. I saw him reach for me, his hand hovering in the air for a second before dropping back to his side. He just watched me fall. A sharp, cramping pain exploded in my abdomen. It felt as if a giant hand had reached inside me, squeezing and pulling. A warm gush of fluid between my legs. I knew, with a terrifying certainty, that something was being torn away from me. As I blacked out, the last thing I saw was Rhys, his face a mask of horror, running towards me. I woke up in the hospital 3 days later. The sun was a blinding glare. I tried to lift my hand to shield my eyes, but it wouldn't move. Rhys, who had been asleep in the chair beside me, stirred. The dull ache in my lower abdomen was a constant reminder. I knew what had happened. He closed the curtains. His first words to me were, "It's gone. That's for the best. Saves us a trip to the clinic." He said it so casually, as if he were talking about the weather. The words were a physical blow, a chilling frost that spread through my limbs, threatening to shatter me completely. I never imagined he could be so heartless, not even about his own child. His hatred for me was so complete that it extended to anything that came from me. A strange sense of relief washed over me. My baby would never have to know a father who didn't want him. I sat up, and for the first time, I said the words that had been locked in my heart for so long. "Rhys, the one you were in love with for 3 years was me. Not my sister." My voice was quiet, but it filled the room. "You hate me this much? You want me to die, to be buried alongside her? Should I just call you brother-in-law? Even if she were alive, even if I had never existed, a man like you. She never would have loved you." Slap. The sound echoed in the dim room. The sting on my cheek was a fiery brand. He hid the hand that had struck me behind his back. Was he capable of guilt? The thought was fleeting. His face quickly settled back into its usual cold mask. "You are not worthy to speak her name," he hissed. "A person like you, Luna, deserves to live in darkness forever." He must have seen the utter desolation in my eyes, because his bravado faltered. I'll go get you some porridge." He fled the room as if escaping a fire. He still had a sliver of compassion for me, after all. After 3 years, I knew him better than he thought. That night, I asked the doctor for some sleeping pills. "What are you planning to do?" Rhys asked, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. He thought I was going to kill myself. How ironic. If I wanted to die, I would have done it long ago. I was just tired. I wanted to play one last game. "The pain," I whispered, pulling the blanket up to my chin. "I can't sleep." He relented. While he was gone, I crushed the pills and stirred them into the glass of water on my nightstand. He was so afraid I would die on his watch that he was being unusually attentive. When he brought the water to me, he took a sip to test the temperature. "It's hot," I murmured. He took 3 more large gulps. When he was satisfied it was cool enough, he held it out to me. "I don't want to drink after someone else," I said weakly. He stared at me for a moment, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Then, with a sigh, he drank the rest of the water himself and went to get me a fresh glass. He slept soundly that night. I slipped the ring from my middle finger and placed it in his pocket. With only my ID card, I went to the sea. He thought that when she was discharged, he would finally let go of his grudge and treat her well. But the next morning, she was gone. On the 3rd day, the police found her shoes and a sealed, waterproof bag containing a suicide note by the water's edge. I saw the news 7 days later, in Northern Europe. The video showed Rhys, disheveled and gaunt, wading through the waves, searching. The police and his assistants tried to stop him, but he wouldn't listen. "My wife is still in there," he kept repeating, his voice hoarse. "She's so afraid of the cold. I have to find her." He searched for 3 days and 3 nights, until he was on the verge of collapse. Even with his iron will, his body had its limits. Finally, with no strength left to stand, he sat on the sand and screamed my name until his voice was nothing but a raw whisper. "Luna, please come back. Please just come home with me." But no matter how desperately he called, no one answered. The Luna who would have tearfully run to him, coaxing him home, was gone forever. 3 years. Surely, that was long enough to atone for any sin. I had stolen 3 years with him that should have belonged to my sister. Now, I had given them back. We were finally even. The first time I saw him was at the school swimming pool. He had just lost his last living relative and was spiraling. He got a cramp while swimming and sank to the bottom. It was my sister, Aurora, who pulled him out. She was aloof, and didn't want to get involved, so she dumped him on me and left. He woke up and saw me. He thought I was his savior, and he pursued me relentlessly. At the end of the semester, I finally agreed to be his girlfriend. He held me and said, "Luna, you are a gift from heaven. I will protect you for the rest of my life, just as you saved me from that water without a second thought." Guilt washed over me. "Rhys, actually, I know," he interrupted, grinning. "You're super into me too." I never got the chance to tell him it was my sister who had saved him. By the time he found out the truth, it was to the news that she had killed herself over another man. He never even got to thank her. The day she died, we had had a small fight. I had impulsively flown to another city to spite her. That night, I got the call. The world went dark. My beautiful, vibrant sister was gone, and the man I loved had turned into my tormentor. At her funeral, he looked at me, his face gaunt with grief, and his words were knives. "Luna, why wasn't it you? Do you know I've been looking for Aurora for 7 years?" That's when I learned the whole story. He hadn't pursued me because he thought I'd saved him. He pursued me because I looked like the girl who had defended him from bullies and brought him breakfast when they were children. That girl, of course, was also my sister. Rhys was the illegitimate son of a wealthy man, and had been tormented for it his whole life. My fierce, righteous sister had been his protector, his first crush. Then we had moved away. He had been searching for that ray of light ever since. And then he found me, her pale imitation. I was her replacement. I was furious that he'd used me as a substitute. But I also felt a crushing guilt. If I hadn't taken her place, maybe things would have been different. So I let him punish me. I told myself I deserved it. It wasn't until I lost my own child, until he said those cold, dismissive words, that I realized we had both gone too far. My sister, who had loved me so fiercely, would never have wanted this for me. It was our own stubbornness, our own grief, that had created this hell. 3 years had passed. It was time for it to end. He could stay trapped in his 17-year-old memories. I needed to build a life. In the news clip, Rhys finally collapsed in the cold water. The camera zoomed in on his face as he closed his eyes, 2 tears of defeat tracing paths through the grime on his cheeks. The comments section was a strange mix of sympathy and condemnation. Some praised his deep love, while others, who had witnessed his cruelty firsthand, finally spoke out. A former bartender recounted the night he had forced me to drink, the red welts that had instantly appeared on my skin. His public image shattered. His company's stock plummeted. He spent 7 days in the hospital. He hired private search parties, who combed the sea for 3 months. They never found a body. Because I was already in Northern Europe, breathing clean, free air. 2 years later, I saw him again. It was autumn, and I was in a park, collecting fallen maple leaves with my daughter. A little bundle of energy ran towards me, holding up a bright red leaf. "Mommy, look. I found a red one." I took the leaf and hugged her close. "You're so clever, baby. Mommy loves you so much." "Mommy," she corrected, "my name is Fairy Baby." I smiled. "Alright, my little fairy baby." A figure blocked our path. I looked up, ready to tell them to move, and my breath caught in my throat. It was Rhys. His eyes were full of a sorrow so deep it seemed to swallow the light. He looked at me, then at the child in my arms. This is... He began, his voice a raw whisper. Mommy, who is this uncle? Lily asked, her arms tight around my neck. Just a lost uncle, sweetheart. She calls you Mommy? He asked, his face pale. She's my daughter. What else would she call me? I replied coolly. I imagine your child is about a year older than her by now. He froze. I walked around him, and my husband, Leo, opened the door of our Rolls-Royce. So that's him? He asked. Yes. Want me to go beat him up for you? Lily, from her car seat, piped up. Daddy, I want to help. Leo chuckled. You're too little to fight, baby. Be good. Then you're not being good, Daddy, she retorted. Leo, a brilliant psychologist who could talk his way out of anything, was consistently rendered speechless by his 2-year-old daughter. Rhys was nothing if not persistent. A few days later, I was woken by the sound of shouting. From my window, I saw Leo and Rhys trading blows in the front yard. You stole my wife, you bastard. She's not a possession, you narcissistic prick. You tormented her for 3 years. Leo, who worked out daily, was much stronger than the sleep-deprived, grief-stricken Rhys. The fight was short. Don't tell Luna about this, Leo warned, dusting off his hands. Or I'll do it again. When he came inside, I pretended to have just woken up. What happened to your face? I asked, pointing to a fresh bruise. Ran into the wall, he mumbled. That wall needs to be taught a lesson. I'll take care of it for you tomorrow. He laughed, embarrassed. Thanks, Luna. Leo was my psychologist. Lily's mother had died in childbirth. The first time I met the 1-year-old Lily, she had toddled right into my arms, and her warm smile melted the ice around my heart. She became my goddaughter, and with her in my life, I began to heal. I finally walked out of the damp, dark world I had been trapped in. But Rhys's reappearance was a constant trigger. He found me again, his words as toxic as ever. Do you really think a man like Leo loves you? He's just playing with you. Once he's bored, you'll be nothing. I knew it wasn't true. But his words still found the cracks in my fragile peace. The familiar, suffocating sadness began to creep back in. Come back to me now, he said, seeing my distress, and I'll forgive everything. The position of Mrs. Jiang is still yours. Leo appeared from nowhere and decked him. You bastard. If you come near her again, I will end you. Do you know what she is? Rhys spat, trying to poison Leo against me. She was my toy. No one is filthier than her. You think you found a treasure? Leo's fists clenched. He tackled Rhys, his voice a low growl. You rotten piece of garbage. I'm going to tear that filthy mouth off your face. They fought, bloodied and furious. The world around me dissolved into a blur. I turned and walked away, deaf to their shouts. Leo caught up to me, pulling me into his arms. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I was late. Don't listen to him. He's wrong. You're not. It's okay, I whispered. I was just surprised that after all this time, he can still say those things. I thought he would have moved on. Who cares what he thinks, Leo said fiercely. He doesn't matter. To prove to Leo, and to myself, that I was fine, I threw myself into my work at the bakery I had opened. For weeks, I barely saw Lily. Rhys was gone. I thought, hoped, that he had finally given up. But one night, as I was walking home, a cloth was clamped over my mouth. As I faded into unconsciousness, the last thing I saw was Leo opening our gate, Lily in. His arms, her small voice piping, "Will Mommy be sad again?" I tried to scream her name, but my body was paralyzed. I was bundled into a car and driven away. I woke up in a rustic, unfamiliar cottage. Outside, I could hear women's voices, talking about mushroom foraging. I was back in my home country. Rhys, to better imprison me, had kidnapped me and brought me here. He came in with a bowl of porridge. You're awake. Eat something. Let me go. be good, he cooed, just as I used to with him. You need your strength. I knocked the bowl from his hands. He just smiled. You don't like it? That's okay. I made other things. His constant, unnerving smile terrified me more than his anger ever had. The thought of spending the rest of my life in this cottage was a cage closing around me. Please, Rhys, I sobbed, let me go. It was all my fault. I shouldn't have pretended to be my sister. I shouldn't have lied. Just let me go. He wiped my tears. Luna, let's not talk about the past. Let's just have a good life together, okay? I once wanted a quiet life with him. Now, all I wanted was freedom. He was terrifying. He pulled me into an embrace, and I bit down hard on his shoulder. He grunted in pain but didn't let go. The taste of his blood filled my mouth, and I gagged, pulling away. You're disgusted by me? He asked, his face a mask of hurt. My silence was his answer. He left, his retreating back looking as fragile as a leaf in the wind. To escape, I ate everything he brought me. I needed my strength. That night, he returned, his face alight with a strange joy. Luna, come with me. He led me to a car. An old woman from the village called out, Ah, Mian, is this your girlfriend? This is my wife, Auntie Lan, he replied. He blindfolded me, and we drove for what felt like hours along winding mountain roads. When we finally stopped, he led me up a small path. The air was filled with the scent of flowers. He removed the blindfold. We were in a pavilion, surrounded by candles and a sea of white roses. He knelt. Luna, marry me. 6 years ago, you said you wanted to be proposed to on a beach, with white roses and candlelight. This isn't the sea, but they call this lake the Lehigh. It's a kind of sea. I looked at his devout, earnest face, and I laughed. It was all so pathetic. 2 years ago, I would have died for this. Now, it was just a sad, desperate attempt to reclaim something that was long dead. Why pick at old flowers, Mr. Jiang? I said coldly. I thought having a child would have matured you. You should save these games for someone else. You may not love Miss Meng, but you have a child together. You should be more considerate. Don't talk about her, he snapped. Why? Does even the great Mr. Jiang dislike having his past brought up? He was silent for a long moment. Then he stood and slid the ring, the one I had left in his pocket, onto my finger. Don't lose it this time. The wedding will be next month. Are there any friends you'd like to invite? Friends? I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. What friends do I have left? Thanks to you, I've already lost everyone. He winced, then quickly recovered. It's okay. You'll make new ones. He turned to face the lake, surreptitiously wiping a tear from his eye. I pulled the ring off and threw it into the dark water. He spun around, his eyes locking on my bare finger. It's okay, he said, his voice strained. It's just a ring. If you don't like that one, I'll get you another. Stop pretending, Rhys. You know it's not the ring I don't like. It's you. Then what do you want from me? He roared. Do you want me to die? If my death would make you love me again, I would do it. I pointed to the black water of the Lehigh. Then do it, I said, the most vicious words I had ever spoken. His face fell. And let you run to him? In your dreams. I will never let you go. He forced me to sit with him by the lakeside all night. When the cold became unbearable, he finally took me back. The next day, while out with his bodyguards, I noticed a lot of unfamiliar faces in the small town. One of the guards made a furtive call. Mr. Jiang, we have a situation. Then he turned to me. Miss Luna, Mr. Jiang needs to see you urgently. But I kept walking. Please, the guard begged. Don't make this hard for us. Everyone always asked me not to make things hard for them. Who, just once, would not make things hard for me? Finally, they forced me into a car. Rhys was already packed. Where are we going? I asked. You said you wanted to go to the coast. We'll go to the coast. It doesn't matter where I am if I'm a prisoner. Just as he was about to force me into his car, the courtyard gate was kicked open. Several plainclothes police officers entered. Jiang Zhimian, you are under arrest for unlawful imprisonment. Leo emerged from behind them and pulled me into his arms. Luna. I will never let anyone hurt you again. The thread I had been holding on to for so long finally snapped. I collapsed against him, sobbing, all the pain and fear pouring out of me. It's okay, he murmured, stroking my back. Cry. Let it all out. Across the yard, Rhys watched me, clinging to another man for comfort, and the last of his delusional hope finally shattered. He understood. I truly didn't love him anymore. He confessed to everything. Despite his lawyer's best efforts, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Leo and I returned to Northern Europe. He went back to his practice, and I went back to my bakery. Before we knew it, Lily was taller, a bright, bubbly presence in our lives. One weekend, she insisted on a 3-way baking competition in my shop. Mommy, look, she said, proudly presenting her rose petal cake. Isn't mine so much better than Daddy's? I ruffled her hair. You, my love, are the most talented little baker in the world. Daddy would need another 30 years to catch up to you. She beamed. See, Daddy? I told you Mommy would like mine best. She looked at me, her eyes sparkling. Mommy, guess what's under the rose petals? What is it, sweetheart? Mommy is so curious. You have to look yourself, Mommy. No being lazy. Her precocious charm made me laugh. I carefully lifted the petals, one by one, while Leo watched with an excited grin. Under the last petal, nestled in the center of the cake, was a glittering diamond ring. Leo took the ring and knelt on one knee. Luna, will you be my wife? Will you give me the chance to cherish you for the rest of my life? I paused, teasing him. He quickly added, it's okay. Even if you say no, I'll still cherish you for the rest of my life. I smiled, running my fingers through his hair. You silly man. Is that a yes? He asked, his voice full of hope. I held out my hand, and he slid the ring onto my finger. Lily cheered, hugging my arm. Yay! Now Mommy is really my mommy. 6 months later, we were married. The wedding was filled with white roses. And this time, they were more beautiful than any flower I had ever seen before.